Welcome to Business Globe. You are about to watch highlights from Canex 2018. Take a look at a panel discussion on cannabis and the Americas, the global opportunity. Part 1 of 5.
His Excellency Vicente Fox. And now, Deepak from Zambia carries with him a letter from His Excellency Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, first President of Zambia and Father of the Nation of Zambia, for His Excellency Vicente Fox. Kenneth, Deepak, I invite you to deliver your letter. Can we have Vicente and Deepak here delivering his letter and receiving his letter, please? Right in the middle for the photographers to capture you. Thank you, Deepak.
Muchas gracias. Let me just take advantage quickly to invite all of you to come to Canex. We have come to an agreement with Canex, Jamaica, to work together and continue this effort. So next April 25 and 26 at Centro Fox, the Presidential Library, first one ever outside of the United States, we're going to hold this global summit with those 1,500 participants of the industry that are going to be there, with all Mexican authorities, health, economy, and else that are going to be there. And there we can discuss what is next step. By then, I'm sure we will have all the information we're expecting to have so that everybody of this industry start enjoying and participating on this huge Mexican market. And Centro Fox will be the core, the center of innovation, of information, of education, of academic work for Mexico. So this is the place. We're in the state of Guanajuato, center of Mexico, which, by the way, Guanajuato and Querétaro and Aguascalientes enjoy 11 huge state-of-the-art automobile manufacturing plants together with all their clusters. It's a very dynamic region of Mexico, is full employment, and now wants to take the lead to move this industry ahead in Mexico. Thank you again.
Thank you, His Excellency Vicente Fox. And now, before we introduce our next panel, Cannabis and the Americas, we have Danny Fontaine from Colorado. Danny is the largest producer of hemp in the U.S. and has been a grower for 12 years. Please welcome Danny Fontaine.
Hi, everybody. Whoa, shit. I'm going to take this off. Okay. I'm a little short, so you have to see me from over here. Hi, everybody. I'm Danny. I am from Colorado. I've been growing cannabis for about 12 years legally. We started our business out in Denver. It was an edible business back in 2008. And from there, it just kind of took off in every way and realm that I could ever imagine. From there, I really started and pushed organic edibles out to the public because I really believe in health and nutrition along with cannabis because it all works together. And so I pushed that out there, and 4 years later sold my company and got into hemp the next year because I really am very passionate about this plant being able to save the planet, and with not just THC and CBD, but with all the fibers, you know, all the sugars it creates, the lignans, all the great stuff. So we planted our first hemp farm back in 2013, and it was only 2.5 acres. And I want to tell you this because I just want to show you the growth that's happened in America since our first 2.5 acres. This year in the United States, there's over 25,000 acres of hemp being grown. So the THC market's doing wonderful and everything, but the industrial hemp market with the CBD is really, really taking off. And it's taking off in the way that, like, we really can't keep up. So we have 4,000 acres this year. It's all based throughout the United States. We have probably 2,000 in Colorado and probably, I don't know, the other 2,000, majority in Oregon, Kentucky, and New York. And so we really do a lot of CBD growing, and we've created a lot of different routes, everything from a spa storefront, which was really the first hemp-based spa in the world, and that started a couple years ago, and we actually opened one out here in Jamaica not too long ago. So we have our storefront there and here as well, and we just really are all about educating and letting people know the vast, I see my friend filming me over there, see the vast uses of this plant with not only just the marijuana side, but really the fibers and the lignans, because that is everything from our clothing to the buildings that we can build, to the food that we eat, the omegas that we need in our brain. It's really everything across the board that we need. So putting your energy not only into the medical side, but also the industrial side is really what's going to fuel this plant across other countries. And being able to introduce localization and, you know, local growing, local processing, local businesses, that's what this plant can do for everybody. And I've been able to see it, you know, over the past X amount of years really do its thing, and it's just been absolutely amazing. I just wanted to tell you the growth in the Americas, and that, you know, this plant is here for us all. It's here to help grow businesses and grow our own, you know, we all have endocannabinoid systems, so it'll make us healthier. It's just here for us. So that's my introduction, and I hope you guys have a great day.
All right, thank you very much, Danny. All right, right now, Cannabis and the Americas, the Global Opportunity, which is a panel discussion, moderated by Ken Gordon. All right, the speakers for this panel is Chris Walsh, founding editor and VP of Marijuana Business Daily. His Excellency, Vicente Fox, is also on the panel, and you know he's a former president of Mexico. Bruce Linton is here, ladies and gentlemen, Chief Executive Officer, Canopy Growth Corporation, and Julio Sanchez, Federal Commissioner for Protection Against Health Risks, Government of Mexico. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome our speakers here on stage. Of course, a round of applause for them, and that's moderated by Ken Gordon.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have quite an impressive gathering here, and I was particularly impressed to learn that this is a gathering made up of people from 22 countries. Congratulations to the people who organized it. Cannabis in the Americas, the global opportunity. Thank you for that. Which one is this one? Cannabis in the Americas, the global opportunity. Now, we've heard from various speakers over the last day and a half. A big part of the objective of this gathering is the contact. But even more than the contact is the opportunity to hear the experiences of people who have actually, in some cases, made it, and in many other cases, about to make it. This very impressive panel represents a cross-section of knowledge which I think can be invaluable to everyone here. You've had them introduced. I'll call them from right to left, or I better start from left to right. First, Bruce Linton. Bruce is the CEO of the Canopy Growth Corporation. This is the gentleman on the left here. We're privileged to have the Honorable Vicente Fox from Mexico, a very distinguished leader. Mr. Monty Williams, the founder of Lenitive Labs I'm not too sure how I should describe him, except to say that he's a man of, sorry? Excuse me, there's something to clarify here. What's that? Oh, my apologies. The other gentleman is Mr. Sanchez. Welcome, Mr. Sanchez. And he is the Federal Commissioner for Protection Against Health Risks from Mexico. In short, he is the man who has to take care of all the difficult problems in Mexico. And we're very fortunate to have him here.
Sorry, the paperwork is a little bit messed up. And of course, we have Chris Walsh from Marijuana Business Daily. Many of you would be very familiar with Chris and the work that they've done in moving the industry forward, particularly with MJ BizCon. So.
Sorry about that, but unless some little thing goes wrong, the overall thing never goes right. Now, I wonder, Mr. President, whether you're prepared to kick off this discussion. You've gone so far already in terms of what your own objectives are, and it's so much in line with the theme of our show that I think you might be the best one to kick off. Would you mind doing so?
Yes, and thank you, and thank all of you again. I'd like to start with saluting the three personalities that are here by my side, and specifically, I want to welcome Julio on my right side, who is the head, the leader of the COFEPRIS institution, which in Mexico is the institution responsible for the advance of the legalization already approved for medical use. He is responsible for putting together the next step for the progress of the industry in Mexico. He's been in intense dialogue with Mexico, with Mexicans, with health authorities, with economic authorities, with government itself, with the international world of cannabis. So he's been listening to everybody, and he now has to implement the next step of the approved law. So I'd like to start with Julio, addressing some words to you, because I think it's very important for you to listen, and this is the future and the calendar of that future in Mexico for the industry, for the medical use of industry.
Now, Julio, before you begin, let me say that I think it would ease the discussion if, as you speak, if any other panelists wanted to intervene to get a certain point over, there may be something. Feel free to interrupt each other. I don't want this to just be a state 1, 2, 3, 4. Feel free at any time that you want to interrupt to do so, and that will keep the conversation going. Please, Julio, go ahead.
Oh, thank you very much, and thank you also to Canex for the invitation. It is actually an honor for me to be here, and also with Vicente Fox and all these personalities that are presiding this event. Thank you very much. Yes, COFEPRIS is the Mexican authority in charge of regulating basically 10% of the Mexican GDP. We regulate 15 industries, medicines, medical devices, supplements. We regulate medicines, food, drugs. We regulate basically the industries that are related to 11% of the foreign commerce in Mexico. So Mexico, COFEPRIS is basically the Mexican FDA. So we are in charge of regulating all these kind of products that are, right, since the reforms in 2017 were in place in our Mexican health legislation. We are going to be in charge of authorizing, giving the permits, give the licenses to medicinal use and also industrial use of cannabis. So let me just explain you very quickly what is happening in Mexico right now. We had this very profound reform in June 2017 where the Mexican Congress authorized the elimination of the absolute prohibition of cannabis for medicinal use and also for industrial uses. So this is a great news. And what Vicente Fox, our ex-president, said before, there's a timeline, and we have a very specific work to do in order to implement those reforms. The reform said specifically that the Ministry of Health should have 180 days to harmonize the regulations that are implicated or that should be regulating the use of cannabis in our legislation. So we presented, COFEPRIS and the Minister of Health presented a draft for a specific regulation in order to do that. And we received in the public consultation more than 150 observations to that draft that are related to self-growth, that are related to the patient, that are related to many implications and also many observations from the different stakeholders, from the industry, from the patients. So actually, it was very difficult to put all these observations in a draft. So there is a delay in the issuance of that regulation, but there's a great news right now. I can actually share it with you because it happened last week. We believe there is a chance that this regulation could be issued in a first part by COFEPRIS, like an internal guidance. So there is an opportunity. We are analyzing that opportunity, that option, because if we wait for the regulation, the president, the actual president right now, or the future president should issue that regulation. That is a faculty that is only assigned to the president. But COFEPRIS has some faculties as well to implement some activities related to import-export of some products. So we are analyzing if we can, in the next 2 months, issue a very specific regulation in order to implement that. So let me just explain you very quickly what the reforms from last year, the implications of the reforms from last year. The first thing is that we eliminated the absolute prohibition of cannabis for those uses, but there is not the growth in Mexican soil was not authorized. That is basically the exception of this reform. But there is an opportunity for sowing, cultivation, harvesting, processing, preparation, conditioning, acquire, possession, trade of cannabis for scientific and for medical purposes. So, for example, yes.
Walk through that list of all the things you have to govern again. Read that list slower. Because people always bug the regulator to go faster, but you should think about what he's got to do. So just list the sowing, go down the list.
Very good. So the first article that was reformed, Article 237 from the
Not 237, that's too detailed. No.
Okay, I will just read the article that permits the use of cannabis and for medicinal and scientific purposes. It says like this: sowing, cultivation, harvesting, processing, preparation, conditioning, acquisition, possession, trade, transportation, medical prescription, supply, employment, use, and consumption of cannabis will be permitted only for medical and scientific purposes with prior authorization by the Secretary of Health.
So the reason I get them to read that is the only reason we can have businesses is because we have regulators. If we don't have regulators and we don't have rules, and if we have poor regulators and poor rules, we have really poor business opportunities. And we tell them, you got 180 days, I think was your marching order, figure out that whole list. And so I'm very sympathetic to your job, to the people at Health Canada, the CLA, and I think we should all, I know we want them to get it perfect faster, but remember, like if they get it right and it takes an extra 3 months, when it's done, no one remembers how long it took. They would live with a very sharp set of tools to work. And so, you know, imagine being the poor person, whether it's Julio in Mexico or the good doctors at the Bundesopienstag in Germany or at Health Canada or the CLA here. I think when the first time I met the CLA, they were all in the room. There were about 3 of them. And they're supposed to make an industry. So keep going through your list, but I think we should all pause as the regulated to appreciate the enormous challenge of regulating us. And 180 days is an unreasonably quick objective to put together prudent rules on that.
Gentlemen, permit me. But one of the questions that I think might be of special interest to many people here is if one wanted to get into the business of marijuana, growing it, what are the objections? What are the obstacles? How does one begin? Are there real difficulties that stand in the way of getting that done? I think there may be some people here. Could they close that door for us, please, and keep it closed? Yeah. I don't think it's fair to...
I can start by answering that, but I think you wanted to finish a thought.
Oh, yes, thank you very much.
Hold on a minute.
Oh, thank you again. Let me just...
Right, okay. Could you
let
go
me
ahead?
just quickly finish with this argument. The regulation in Mexico has a very important element in comparison with other regulations in the world. It's a federal regulation. It is not like in the United States, divided into states. So it's like in Canada as well. So it's a federal regulation that once it is issued and implemented, it's going to give certainty to industries, to investors, to come to Mexico and to develop medicines, to develop alimentary supplements, to develop cosmetics, even to develop some tobacco or alcohol or even food with cannabis. So the point that we have to see in Mexican regulation is that we have eliminated in this government a prohibition that took 90 years in our country to prohibit cannabis for any purposes. So that is a great news. The second great news is that it's a federal regulation that is going to be implemented and that is going to give as well with the processes that COFEPRIS already have to those products are going to give certainty for the processes to have market authorizations.
So to answer your question as well, I think this segues into it nicely. If you're looking to get into this industry, no matter the country you're in, the first thing you have to realize is that the regulatory process, as we were talking about, is complicated. And every country is handling this differently than the other country. So there's no regulatory framework that's being used all around the world. So this is still a new concept and a new idea for regulators and for business people and for politicians and lawmakers. So you have to understand that there's often delays in how this is rolled out. You have 180 days. Who knows if that will actually happen? We've seen deadlines missed many times, often with good reason, because, again, they're building this from the ground up. And as Bruce said earlier, they need to get this right. And if it's not right the first time, is what happens is the regulations change. And you've invested money and time and resources into getting involved, and then everything shifts underneath you. And that costs more money, and it also can put people out of business. So the first piece of advice would be to really understand your country's regulations, which sounds obvious, but a lot of people don't do that. They're complicated, and you need to know them just like the regulators do. So you have to spend a lot of time learning what the structure is. And then you also have to anticipate changes and delays. As I mentioned, often we see people building out business plans, whether it's in a US state or in other countries, and then things get delayed, and they weren't prepared for that. So they have to find more money, and they have to find people who will stay around for a lot longer than they thought. So when you're looking at getting involved in the industry, know there's going to be a lot of uncertainty, and as I mentioned, the ground is likely going to shift under you. There's going to be new regulations, likely that come out of nowhere, that can open up or limit competition or cost you more money or mean more regulatory hoops that you have to go through. And I think the other piece of advice I'd give is that, again, what Bruce was saying is you have to be sympathetic to the governments and the lawmakers and the regulators who are doing this. Again, because they're getting pressure from a lot of different sides and there's no blueprint. So it can be very frustrating, but you also have to realize that we're pioneering new ground here in the world. And so everyone has to be flexible and you have to prepare for uncertainty. And often that means having much more money to weather the storms than you thought you were going to need.
One key issue is, and I was talking about before, the responsibility of this industry. We have to be very careful on how we move ahead and make this industry to be a strong economic sector, a strong health provider sector. And this is why quality is so important. And I would like Julio to tell us about why COFEPRIS is also working on making sure that all products that are going to be in the marketplace have the quality, have the information, have the transparency that is needed for.
Thank you, Vicente Fox. Muchas gracias. Yes, let me just quickly explain to you what is the role of a regulator like COFEPRIS, like the FDA, or like the EMA, or Health Canada. We have the mandate to assure that the products that go to the patient or to the consumer have quality, are sure to be consumed. And that is a mandate that we have. And in terms of what we are doing with cannabis, we have to apply the same process of quality to those products. So quality is important. It's a key element in order to understand, in order to develop an industry that can stay for the people. So we are, at least in COFEPRIS, preparing ourselves in order to have already prepared the processes, the requirements for quality for the products that are going to come with cannabis. So, for example, in medicines that could have cannabis, there is a very specific process in order to give market authorization. We have to go through a new molecules committee. After that, we have to go to a registration process where we are going to analyze if the company has good manufacturing practices or all those practices that are related to quality. So this is a key element because what we are doing right now in Mexico is try to develop an industry that has one element, is good for the people, has quality, has efficacy, is good to be consumed, and is not going to harm the people. So we are working on these elements on quality for all these products, supplements, cosmetics, and actually what we are doing is to basically prepare ourselves in our human resources team as well in order to understand what is happening in the industry. So this is an event in which I am learning a lot and I am having a lot of information because what the challenge of a regulator is to be sensitive about what is happening, like an article said 2 years ago, being sensitive about what is happening around the corner. That means inside a facility, inside the industry, inside a business plan.
Bruce, I want to come to you in a minute because you have had some extraordinary experiences in the industry, and I'd like you to share them with us.
We have been regulated and the regulator. It's going to be very interesting dialogue.
Before I do that, though, Bruce,
I think we got to give you. We got to give you the job in the middle, which is the one which I've seen done at times not strong enough to begin, which is the labs, third-party verification. And so you can have all the rules and all the regulations you want, you can have all the inspectors you want, but even in Canada what I found was the attributes for which they tested at the beginning put too much trust on the producers not to adulterate the product. And as soon as that adulteration occurred.
Thanks for watching Business Globe.